Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Presentation Hell. Today, I'm sitting here with Dr. Deborah Kish Stephan. She is the president of Hillsborough College here in, are you actually in Tampa?
Brandon campus of Hillsborough Community College, yes.
The Brandon campus of Hillsborough Community College, and we're here to learn more about what's going on. I do want to say we're podcasting here from Embark Studios in Tampa. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure, and I've gotten to learn a lot about this area already just being here.
Well, tell us a little bit about the school, about the Brandon campus, and what it means to the community here. Give a brief pitch for anyone who might hear about it and say, this is a place where I want to go to school.
Absolutely. Well, Hillsborough Community College serves over 43,000 students in our community. Over 85% stay in our community. So we are an economic engine for the Tampa Bay area.
Hold it, 43,000 students. That puts you on level with major state universities in size.
It does. It sure does.
Wow, yeah. I'm floored by this whole that whole statement. How big is the campus?
So the Brandon campus serves 15,000 students. So we are the second largest campus at Hillsborough Community College, with Dale Mabry being the largest. And we serve primarily transfer students as well as students learning aquaculture, biotechnology, and our newest program we're starting is FinTech, which if you've done any finance on your phone, right, which I'm sure you do, that's exactly what we're developing, a program for students to have entry-level careers and build all the way up to USF into their accelerator program.
It's eventually an excellent support network. I didn't realize the strength and foundation that comes from that.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal, and we're excited, and we're leading the way in the state of Florida with developing a new prefix and really bringing a bunch of players from the Tampa Bay area that already work in FinTech into the program development of
What's a prefix? You just said
prefix. Yeah, so like if you take English 101, so it would be ENC 101. So prefix is an area of study.
Oh,
so
okay,
it's a whole new
It's
area. We're not just cobbling together, let's say a finance class and a cybersecurity class. We're creating an entirely new field of study.
Wow. Tell me a little more about this whole field of study. Is there a campus building for it? Is there specific faculty already set up for it? Is there,
We're in the development process, so entrepreneurial type effort, just like many of the folks here at Embark, right? Starting something from scratch. So we will be hiring faculty. We're developing the curriculum from the ground up. We have a program advisory of experts in the community helping guide it, as well as nationally. We've hired folks to help guide it. And then we will have a space at the Brandon campus, a FinTech center.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think this is excellent. This is why I came to Tampa, by the way. Just learning this stuff over and over again blows me away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
pretty exciting.
That is very exciting. I'd like to know a little more about how you pull your students into the school. Like, where do they come from? Because everyone knows, the big universities, the Harvards of the world and everything, but a community college serves a special purpose to its area. And I don't know if a lot of people really know the values that are provided that way. Could you provide a little more context to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So community college, and it's across the country, right? There's over 1,200 community colleges across the country. They serve a very unique purpose in that they're about changing the communities that they're embedded in. And it's about giving access to education to folks who might not otherwise have it, right? Who maybe didn't have the resources, the support at home, maybe even the grades, because maybe they didn't have those things previously, to get a college education or advanced skills. It might be workforce development skills, it might be continuing education skills, corporate training, but we're a majority minority institution, and that means we have over 67% of our students are either Hispanic or African American or some other ethnicity, and so we're very much concerned about uplifting the community as a whole. So our students come from Hillsborough County primarily. There are, the exceptions of outside of our area, but primarily Hillsborough County. And they come and we're just lifting up students in our community. I went to community college over in the Orlando area.
So you're from the community?
I'm from Central Florida. Yep, I grew up over in Kissimmee when Disney World was just getting its start. So it was a little different.
I
It was
understand
orange groves and cattle back when I was a kid. But and then
I went
Disney
there
World.
at the same time. I remember
you?
the car trip with just going by
Yeah.
orange trees and orange trees and orange
That's
trees.
right. Yeah.
And then we got to Disney World.
Yeah, and then it was Disney World, and it was awesome, right? You know, and lots of imagination and a great experience. But yeah, so I grew up in Central Florida in this area, and I had an opportunity 3 years ago to come back to Florida and be here in Tampa and take over the reins at the Brandon campus. And it's such a unique opportunity to be able to change your community one person at a time. And our students have grit.
I was going to say that word just as you were saying.
Yeah, they have so much grit. And
well, I would imagine most of them also work a full-time job.
Many.
And without the full-time job, the option of school doesn't happen because if you can't pay for school, you can't do school. So you have to be successful at one to do the other, which gives a certain grit to the people who come through there.
Absolutely. They're either working jobs, many are single parents. They maybe have not done as well in their high school experience, or maybe they're coming back to school. They've been working and trying to upskill. So our students really, like I said, they have grit, and it's something very special about community college students that's a little different. Not that, I mean, a lot of students have grit. They just have a different kind of grit, right? Because they're working, they're paying for it usually themselves. The Pell Grant is incredibly helpful for many
That's
of
the
our
federal
federal
grant.
funds, right? And financial aid is incredibly helpful for students as well to be able to level up.
Yeah, that's now there's been some discussion about financial aid being something that is easily attainable yet hard to pay back. And is there a balance that is learned in this process that you hear the horror stories as I graduated 6 years ago with $250,000 in debt and I've paid all the time and now I owe $315 and I'm 35 years old, and it's like,
yeah, that's a bad deal, right?
Yeah. Somehow it doesn't work out. And usually, by the way, that happens at the higher end schools that get $50,000 and $80,000 a year for the schooling. But
right, not at a HCC.
You're not going. I know you're not going to.
We're not crossing that line with folks for sure, because we're very reasonable. It's for the first 2 years of your schooling. It's certainly probably one of the most reasonable options out there to get a quality education and to be able to transfer. And if you want to get right out in the workforce, like you're wanting to do something like in welding, which you can come out of a welding program and make very good income, right?
I would like to talk about that a little bit because I believe, and maybe it shouldn't be about what I believe, but I really believe that a lot of the current American values have been discounting those type of skills in the go get the Harvard degree or the Penn State degree or the LSU or whatever big name type of thing, because you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be all of these professions that are, quite frankly, going to be challenged by AI in a major sense. And if you're not a superstar, you're not going to be making what you dream of making anyway. And there's the 1% who are superstars, and everyone looks to them and go, God, that's great.
Right.
So if you want to make a good living and take care of your family and be strong and actually probably develop a lot more wealth in a shorter period of time, tell me about some of these things. Welding. What do you offer on the blue collar, dirty hands type of stuff?
Sure. Well, I think there's a place for all the various programs, right? Depending on your skill set. So I want to say that, and I will disclose I am a lawyer by trade. It's good.
I know
it's
that,
good.
by the way.
I know you do that. So that was good. But I think there's a place for all the different programs, right? We need varying people with varying skill sets to make our community work, right?
Without a
we
question.
need people who know how to do plumbing.
That's
we need
right.
people who know how to run a plumbing business.
I like the carpet on the floor. It looks nice. The paint on the wall's nice. I love the lights.
Architects who design, right? Or furniture designers. We need all of these things. So welding is just another area.
Name a bunch of the ones you got.
So we have automotive technician. We have welding. We have carpentry. We have the trades. We also have things today which are high tech, like cybersecurity. We're starting an artificial intelligence program that we're getting ready to launch as well. The fintech. We have aquaculture. Aquaculture is about growing fish. So we have a huge
And
ornamental.
feeding people.
Well, feeding people, and the ornamental fishing market as well is something that we do. Biotechnology, folks that help develop like the vaccines. Those are technicians, bioengineers with technicians assisting with that process. So we do all of those things. So they all matter. It's a variety. We just started at the Brandon campus, and I'm really proud of this partnership with TECO, an electrical line workers program.
Now that's important.
It's incredibly important, particularly with hurricanes, right? We want our power back on
Here's
quickly.
The thing. I think we live in a society that has been built so well for us that we take advantage that the toilet we take it for the toilet flushes, the hot water's there, the car starts and runs, and the AC works.
And that's
that
because
wasn't the case 50 years ago.
No, it wasn't. And we have talented people. So Hillsborough Community College is training those folks. So this program with TECO is about developing line workers. We put poles up in our yard, in our training yard. We have a program. TECO has fully funded 48 slots for this academic year at $6,500 a slot. So that means 48 students this year can come at no cost to themselves and do this program and come out with a very nice pathway. I think it starts at $26 an hour, I believe, might be 22 to 26, I can't remember exactly, $20 an hour, and then it builds up. It's a career that you can have over your lifetime and have a very good living, right?
But what you're talking about is really core to the entrepreneurial, capitalistic way of going about it. Is like right now, a lot of the universities are expensive. You go to school and it's hard to get the benefit. You just described a direct business plan that says, I can actually get this knowledge and expertise for free because it's being offered, because it's being paid for by TECO, which is the Tampa Electric Company. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're actually giving them a talent they can cash in on
immediately without that financial aid piece.
That's without that burden of being shackled to debt, which there's something called debtor's prison that is a whole different concept that you're probably aware of. But this is, you provide an avenue without that. I see that as the real opportunity out there, because quite frankly, some of the most wealthy and secure people build stuff.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we have, something that you should know, we have an avionics technician certificate program that is being funded through CareerSource. So
is that at Lackland Air Force Base?
No, we're offering it right there at the Brandon campus.
Oh, okay.
It's another one that we're doing, and we're starting massage therapy as well, which is also backed by some scholarship opportunities. And so we're excited about that.
Hi, this episode of Presentation Hell is brought to you by Presentation Management. It's a new strategy for content management. We manage presentations for global enterprise. Faster, smarter, more compliant presentations for your global enterprise. This is AI presentations of the future. Shuffler delivers it. So before we get into it, I want to hear a little bit about your story that brings you to being a president of a university. That's very, it's a Horatio Alger story. It's an American story is what it really is. But, so where did you start? You said you grew up in this community, but what's your deal?
So I grew up in Kissimmee, like I said, and I grew up to educators. My folks both were in education, and I vowed that I would not be in education.
Like every good kid.
Every good kid, right? I wasn't going to do what they did. But, you get brought up in a way where you value education, and it matters, and you see how it makes a difference. And I went to school here in Florida. I went to Florida State for undergrad, and, of course, got an education degree. And quickly taught social science and decided, I really wanted to be an attorney. I thought,
an attorney.
I could I could change the world by being an attorney. I was very idealistic. I saw the JFK movie back in, gosh, what was that, in the 90s, right? And thought, I can do this. I could be an attorney. And so I ended up going to the University of Florida to law school. And while I was there, I loved the business classes, and so the business law courses. And so I ended up getting an MBA at the same time, and then taught.
Classic overachiever.
Yeah, and
Go
I
ahead.
enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved school, and I got to be a TA for the business law class. Loved it. Went out and started practicing law, and had an opportunity.
You had a long career in
over
law,
a
right?
decade, yeah. I practiced law for over a decade, business law, primarily with startups and mid-sized companies mostly. And I taught business law on the side at the community college and then at university, and loved it. I loved being in the classroom, and everyone said, hey, why don't you go work in higher ed and administration? I'm like, who's going to hire an attorney, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
they did.
Attorneys know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah. Well, they definitely know how to do a little bit of strategy.
The thing is, they're writing the documents
Yeah.
that bury that
Yeah.
that make the world happen that
They
we live
do.
in. The structure that
They
we're
do.
living, the system that we live in, is structured in a legal environment.
Absolutely.
And when you run a red light, it's a legal process. And when you get married, it's a legal process.
Yeah.
And when you start a business, it's a legal process.
Yeah.
And when you buy a pack of gum, it's a legal process. That receipt is an invoice, and that's a contract we've all signed.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and you understand that dynamic. And I'll tell you, my law degree has served me probably the best of everything I've learned over the years, because it does provide exactly that ability to analyze and know where back doors are, know where the pitfalls are, all of that. So,
Well, it's an intellectual construct
Right.
that we all live under.
right, and so it's great, and it helps with when you're managing employees in an operation or you're doing startup programs. You understand how to pull together the partners and make sure everyone is getting into a
Protected.
win-win situation and protected, so you can actually do some really great work. So that's been fantastic. But yeah, I was able to get in through really a chamber connection into
Here in Tampa.
actually out in Colorado.
Oh, out in Colorado.
Yeah,
Okay.
out in Colorado, and then worked my way up to chief academic officer, and then was recruited to start a national program before COVID for folks who lived in education deserts and could not access higher
What's
education.
an education desert? I
It's
can
very
get.
much like a food desert, right? It's where you can't actually access higher ed. You don't maybe have the internet, you don't have the technology
You
or
don't
the
have
resources.
the people with the knowledge
The people with
nearby.
the knowledge is maybe you're too far, more than 60 miles from a higher ed institution, and you can't get to
Okay.
one. Yeah. So the idea was that we would be able to extend higher ed to those folks across the nation, and this was before COVID. And then I came back to Florida, and so I was lucky enough to find this position. I was ready to have water back in my life and no snow, and come back to the heat and really come home. And so when the position popped up, I thought it was a great fit, and was lucky enough to be able to be selected. And so here I am in Tampa.
So how do you bring this startup history and knowledge to the current, Hillsborough campus there? Like, what special parts have you brought into it? Because to have that background, I analyze everything in that fashion. I've been in that world. I've started a lot of businesses and things like that. So how do you bring that to the school?
Higher ed is notoriously slow to change, right? Notoriously. And so one of the things I think that I'm able to do is, because of that entrepreneurial mindset, is say, listen, we need to look at our programming. What is modern and relevant? And there is so much that isn't. And if it isn't, we need to morph it, change it, or sunset it. And we need to find out what is actually needed in society today. So I was just sitting in here with you thinking, we really should have a podcast studio on campus.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that that might be the next thing I pitch. This is the way of the world, and with TikTok videos or Instagram and influencers,
It's all
a
about
whole new,
communication. It's a different communication. Every human
Absolutely.
being is their own brand. And then your own brand, if established well who you are and what you do, you can have bigger influence, and then you can become an
Right.
influencer that way. And an influencer isn't just someone on YouTube saying,
Right.
oh, whatever they're
or
saying.
doing makeup tips or whatever.
Makeup tips. But
it's idea, thoughts, and
in
moving
every category of life. If you laid concrete and you taught people online saying, oh, we put in this sidewalk this
Yeah.
Tuesday, and it had a cracked base, and we used extra reinforcement, and this is how the look went, and we added dust and powder on the top, which gave it a silky feel. You're not only selling your product, you're not only working your brand, you're influencing other people to design their home the way you just spoke about.
Well, and you're teaching people, right? Education is not limited to the four walls of an educational institution. People can learn on YouTube, they can learn from podcasts, they can learn everywhere. I think what the real value of higher ed, beyond maybe some nuanced skills you have to learn, being a nurse, you've got to go through clinicals and actually learn it. But there's a lot of virtual ways we can teach those things as well. But you have to understand how to discern and use nuance. And I think that critical thinking and problem solving skills, along with a really healthy dose of creativity, makes for a great worker of the future. Right?
That was the algorithm for the worker of the future, and I agreed with it. Go ahead, say that again. What was it? Critical thinking.
Problem solving. Discernment with
problem solving. Discernment equals
with creativity.
Creativity. So we'll go through it again. Problem solving.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. Creativity.
And some discernment and nuance, understanding how to really...
Subject matter expert. You understand how things go. You don't just look at it and presume you're in some ivory tower and tell the world how their world should live.
Right. Well, and when you have influencers or you have people talking like this, you want to be able to think, okay, what did I hear them say?
Was James full of crap, or was that really important?
Right? Was it important? Was it a new thought, on point?
Did it make me think differently?
Exactly.
Do I look at the world a little differently?
Did he have his facts right? Did he, or did she have her facts right? I mean, that nuance and understanding, just the change of a word, like adding creativity into this piece, I think is incredibly important. And if we forget that often in education.
Yeah. Actually, I want to talk about those three of them, because that is the value of education, because creativity is really, to me, connecting two things that other people haven't recognized should be connected. When I was young, I was told in school that you can't use a calculator because you won't have one with you all the time.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Now, the birth of calculators created all the technology. Well, or the technology created the calculator, and the calculator's grown ever since.
Right.
The ability to calculate and crunch numbers has exponentially grown.
Yep.
Right? Now we have algorithms and all these things that are just so blown away fast. Just the images that come on Instagram are calculations from those calculators way back when.
Right.
So the world changed that fast because of numbers. Now, just this year, we've been introduced to something called AI.
Yeah.
AI is doing the same thing, but with words.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
So the real question is, if it's managing words and managing perceived thoughts, will the explosion of idea and knowledge will it go on the same trajectory as numbers? Calculators 35, 40 years, or 35 years, or the knowledge of words,
I think
is it about to explode?
Absolutely, and I think it'll be exponentially faster, right? I think it's going to be incredible. I mean, now, with AI, or if you want to just use ChatGPT as one of them, right?
That's the beginner.
And really, AI has been around for a long time.
Yes,
it became mainstream with ChatGPT
in February.
In February, and these LLMs, these large language management systems, I mean, are quite incredible, and you can use it as a tool, just like your calculator, the internet. It is a tool that you can use to be better. And so I actually was at a conference just last week, and the idea of going from, you would have what they call in Silicon Valley as a 10x engineer, and that would be the rare person who could really knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, go home at night, come back the next day,
doing the work of 10 engineers,
and it just works.
Yeah.
They sit down, it works. They're more of a Mozart. They're more of a Van Gogh.
Exactly.
They sit down, and it's like, holy crap!
But
that just
AI
happened.
takes a 1x person and allows them to be a 100x person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's incredible. And those aren't my words. Those are words I learned at the conference and from the presenters there. And it is incredible what we're going to be able to do. And so the question is, how do we harness the power, right? And level ourselves up, being able to use AI. And in education, we have to embrace that this is yet another tool. And if we're not teaching how to write the best prompts to be able to generate the information you're asking ChatGPT to do for you. If we're not able to do that and help students learn that, they're going to be behind the curve coming out of school.
Yeah.
And that's, it's interesting that one of the presenters this last week said, we create this technology and we're great at creating it, but we're horrific about adopting it and then utilizing it, right? Because we're so fearful, right? We think it's the conversation centers around
you created Frankenstein.
plagiarism or something like that, versus understanding the exponential factor of being able to analyze words and word choices and sentence structure or information that you glean from the words, right? So I don't know. I'm incredibly excited about it. So
I am too. Yeah. Here, for the audience out there, what you just described is something called large language model. And to give a simple analogy, much like the calculator used numbers to calculations and make things going, and now there's algorithms that put images on a screen, we're at the first stage where their large language model is taking individual words and treating them like individual numbers of 35, 40 years ago. Now these words get used in strings called sentences and thoughts that come out in paragraphs and go through it. And if you think of that structure and how these are algorithms of words. Yeah,
it's incredible.
And the explosion and I don't have any answers on this. I'm just I'm allowing my thoughts to come out more than anything else. I'm kind of blown away by it. What do you see for the university system on this whole thing? Because when it first came out, it was a threat. Oh my God, it's plagiarism.
Yeah, and I do think that we still have to manage that perception. Absolutely. And I think that we have to keep, saying, hey, this is a tool, this is a tool, this isn't about plagiarizing, because the reality is if you ask ChatGPT to provide you an essay, there could be incorrect information. This is where that nuance and discernment matter, right?
Who programmed it and pulled it out? Does it have a different point of view?
And the word choice, the way that something is said. I mean, there is stylistic choices, right? If you write a legal brief versus a military report, they're going to look very different. So they're stylistic, right? So I think that in our world, I think it can help us be better educators. Okay. I think that it can help us create better prompts for our assignments. I think it can help students with learning. Let's say you're having students writing certain sentences and learning how to construct. You could ask ChatGPT to help you refine. Well, what do you think about this? What if I change this word? Does it change the meaning? You can interact in a way that's almost as if a tutor with the systems. And I think that even more so than that, you can exponentially increase someone's ability in what they're capable of doing. But if we don't teach that critical thinking component with it, I think that's the key piece.
I think that's one of the biggest problems with society today. Is the critical thinking everyone seems to be digesting the media being put at it, whether it comes from an individual or from the mainstream or from a podcast or something. How do you discern what's right and wrong and who's honest, who's telling the truth? Because everyone comes off as with a lot of conviction and it feels like the truth and it might sound right, but
and even science changes, right? I mean, you learn something through an experiment, and then you learn something else 10 years later about that same topic.
Well, that's a growth thing.
It's a growth. And so maybe what was true 10 years ago is not true today. Or people take a scientific study, let's say primary source material, and they misquote it. And then society understands it through the misquote, right?
We do presentations.
Yeah.
One of the things we think is emotion creates motion. So if you're doing a presentation and you want to capture your audience, you start with an emotional slide. Okay. You capture who they are on that level. Now, someone could see an issue on that emotional side, and there might be one person on this side and one person on this side. You follow up the emotion with statistics.
Okay.
You'll find at the end, the person who's on this side will find numbers that reinforce their point of view
Right.
and bring it to the table. The person on this side will find stats that reinforce them and bring it to the table. They'll
Right.
both feel and seem legitimate.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what's right or wrong, but that's where the ability of discernment and understanding.
And asking the question is, how were the stats derived?
Mhm.
What was your sample size, right? I mean, if you're
All the
talking about an
pieces.
N of 10, right? That's a very small sample
Yeah.
size, but we're banking our ideas and philosophies and beliefs on really small
Mhm.
sample sizes. So that's a problem, and that's what I think education
Yeah.
brings to the table, is
the-
helping you discern. Wait a minute. This source material or this presentation, it's giving me all of this, but what's really legit?
They only talk to people who lived in Alaska.
Yeah.
No
So,
wonder
yes, it's
they're
cold.
cold centric. Yeah,
That's
no,
right.
I get it.
Yeah,
Everyone's cold.
yeah,
We
yeah.
like furry boots.
Right.
I get it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
I totally
that's the way it is.
understand
And I think
that.
that's the value of a higher education still today, and why I think it's relevant.
Oh, yeah.
And, because there's this conversation about the changing landscape of higher education, right? And what's relevant and what's not relevant.
Mhm.
I think higher education does what I've been able to see the best job of helping people grow in their ability to discern
Okay.
and understand nuance, build critical thinking, build problem solving. I think we need to do a lot better job at the creativity.
Oh,
So,
yeah, without a
but-
question. I learned more, and to go back to Mr. Tyson, getting punched in the face and robbed
Right.
than I probably learned the 15 years before that.
Yeah.
That
Hard
happened to me.
knocks.
No,
Oh,
I
oh,
know, I
oh,
get
really?
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I fundamentally understand those types of things. And
Yeah.
ironically, in life, and I'll just throw this out there, is the people who end up on the top usually have a very unique story of some amazing process to get there. And if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, or you're not in a place where you're really being challenged, you're never going to ascend to that type thing. Mediocre people that doesn't happen that way.
No, it's
No
a
one's at-
comfortable space.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've got a life of comfort. It's
Yeah.
very easy to
It's
go get
easy.
food. I can have, what do you
Right.
want, sushi?
Yeah, right.
We'll
It'll
have it
be here.
in 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, no problem.
Yeah.
And we live in that, and it's comfort is probably the biggest destructor of creativity.
It is. And it's so interesting because we need all the creativity to have all the comforts we have. But it's this push and pull, right? The more we have, the less motivation you get. So it's
a balance of life, and there's
yeah.
room for everyone on the planet for that, and know where they
Right.
stand. Here's something, I'm just going to throw it out there, and you can think about this. I tend to look at people, and I'm going to say that, judge them on 3 basic categories:
Okay.
temperament, talent, and convictions.
Okay.
Their temperament, what they're going to be emotional about, what's going to move them, what's going to make them, is a dog on the side of the road going to cause you to stop, or is it going to drive by, or you want to go to a football game and you're all over it.
Right.
Your talent, can you sit down at a piano and make the world come to you?
Yeah.
Can you put
I
a
love
ball,
that,
can
by
you
the
put
way.
a ball through a hoop?
Yeah.
Can you talk on a podcast? Can you write code?
Right.
Can you make a painting?
Mhm.
And then convictions. What
Right.
do you truly believe in?
Yeah.
Where is your compass set? And if your convictions are weak, you're going to get blown away.
Right.
What are you really looking for? Where is the horizon? And when the dark clouds and dark winds are hard blow you off course, do you stay on that? And when you speak to someone, I all the time,
Right.
and this isn't as a bad thing, is when you know those types of things, then you can properly work with that person. You can put them in the right job. You can, you know what I mean? What did Einstein say? If you judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, you'll never get any value out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You'll
Yeah.
never know. And the same type of thing, if you're that sit down at a piano and make the world come to you, I'm not going to ask you to do code.
No, it's not going to work.
And
Right.
hence the different things that go in it. And we're all possessed. We're all on the spectrum all over the planet that way. And every group that comes together, I'm building a company. I look at different people around me, Kate, and see their value equation and what they're good at or what they aren't, and try to give them a fertile environment for where they're good. You don't need to put the fish down for not climbing a tree, or the monkey for not swimming.
You need to give them a pond or
That's
a bigger pool.
That's right. And you cherish that, and you work with that, because everyone works together to make it work. I know that wasn't the topic of conversation, but I just wanted to throw it out there because it seemed very relevant on a large scale with human beings.
I think it absolutely is. And as a parent, I have two kiddos, and that are,
They're still young.
well, 23 and 20.
Okay, you called them kiddos. I was like, okay.
To me, still, right?
I have 21 and 17, so I'm past kiddo. I'm looking
young
up to
adults,
them.
Right? Yeah.
I look up to them.
But the thing is, what makes, and they've done very well, but what makes them successful is leaning into who they are and what talents they have to
That's right.
to nourish and to cultivate, right? And so, like my daughter, she has the power of the pen, and she has this beautiful voice, and she can make words come to life. I don't believe ChatGPT is going to be able to compete with that. However, someone who doesn't have that ability might be able with some ChatGPT to get a little closer.
Well, you can get better.
You can
without
get better
a question.
and closer. And so, and my son has this empathetic ability to understand other people and understand motivations. And he walks into the room and he's just able to do this. It's innate. And so leaning into those abilities, I think, is crucial. And of course, who you are as a person and who you are when nobody's looking, right?
Oh, well, that's the big deal. What do you do? Like, I'll give one last story before we get to the end here. And this is a simple one. Who you are when nobody's looking. I had a story from my father-in-law. He said he was young, and his uncle owned a thriving nightclub. And they were interviewing for the maitre d', the person at the front door. And people were coming in all day, and they were walking all day, coming back and forth. And then one guy came in, and there was a napkin on the ground, and he picked it up. Wasn't his restaurant, wasn't his place. He picked it up and put it in the trash. He naturally, when no one was looking, would take care of the property that they were looking for a job to be the front face of. And if you didn't take pride in your surroundings, you probably don't have the true depth neuroses to be at that front thing.
Right.
And that person got the job and ended up being there for 20 years, and it was a really big deal, that type of thing. But what you do when no one's looking is very important. Yeah. God, this was a good conversation.
Yeah,
did you enjoy it?
I loved
did too.
it. I thought it was great. Thank you so much.
So as we wind up here, I'd like to thank Deborah for coming out for the day, and also take one more minute and tell the audience why they should be supporting the Brandon campus of Hillsborough Community College.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being here today. And like I said earlier, Hillsborough Community College is your community college in the Tampa Bay area. And we are about uplifting our community one person at a time. We do that through over 200 programs. We provide support. So if you're a little unsure about getting your degree or leveling up, we have supports to get you through and to help you along that journey. And so we care deeply about our students. We care about this community. And like I said, we do that one student at a time here.
And where do they reach you?
You can reach me at dstephan3 at hccfl.edu.